ماشي. اوكي احمد صباح جود افترنون. احمد صمادي، حبيت اسلمك. كرم وسامي وعلي، محمد عزام، سوار، لين، ادم، ريان واحمد. طيب هذا احمد مسمي حاله اي اس، وفي عندنا ال اس اتش مش موجود ليث. طيب الان weather in the atmosphere we have in this lesson or in this unit 5 lessons. قلنا I want to remind you again that lesson 4 is not included. هذا ما أخذناه أصلاً. ماشي؟ lesson 4 predicting weather changes is not included. يلا بديش نطول، يعني قصدي ما بدي نعمل ديتيلز كثير، خلص بحكي لكم الشيء المهم ونمشي. دائما remember this point. دائما بحكي لكم أنا، دائما الكونسبتس are very important. الكونسبتس very important. air pressure, atmosphere, altitude, wind. اوكي كل هذول important. طيب what is the atmosphere? It is a mixture or a thin layer in thin envelope of gases that surrounds the planet. Okay, and راح نحكي بعدين in details what is the structure or what is the composition of the atmosphere. شباب في واحد طالع من عنده صوت، اتوقع انه احمد اشرف. بليز في صوت زي خرخشه. اوكي طيب كرم put your hand down. Put your hand down كرم. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. طيب so the atmosphere is a thin layer of gases or thin envelope of gases that surround the planet. It is made up of many gases: nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, and 1% for other gases like carbon dioxide, water vapor, and so on. The composition of the atmosphere, yes, as I told you, 78% of the air we breathe is made up of nitrogen. So nitrogen makes up 78% of the air. Oxygen is essential for animal life, as you know, and makes about 21%. So together, if you add 78 plus 21, it will give you 99%. So the atmosphere is mainly made up of two gases, nitrogen and oxygen together make 99% of the atmosphere. Now, the remaining 1% of the atmosphere or of the gases in our atmosphere consists of traces. يعني trace means very small amount. It's very small amounts of gases such as argon, carbon dioxide, methane, and ozone. Also, you can consider water vapor. Okay, so this is the composition of the atmosphere. It is very important. So the composition of the atmosphere is very important, and at the same time, I think it is very clear for you because you learn this or we mentioned this many times, even in grade 5 and grade 4. So the again the 78% of the atmosphere or of the air is nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% for other gases. So طيب. Here, air pressure, it's very important also. What is the meaning of air pressure? It is the column of air that exerts a force on you called air pressure. The gases of the atmosphere, they have a weight. Oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases. The air around you exerts a pressure on you. Their weight exerts a pressure, but you don't feel this. This weight or this force that is exerted by the gases in the atmosphere this is called air pressure. Right. It's very important for me to know that the relationship between the altitude and air pressure. Before talking about this relationship, we must know what does altitude mean. Altitude is the distance above sea level. By the way, yani altitude, you can say that altitude is the same as elevation. يعني when we talk about land features, we mentioned elevation. Elevation and altitude are almost the same. So it is the distance above sea level. Of course, the higher, this is the relationship, is very important. The higher the altitude, what will happen to the air pressure? What do you expect? The lower the air pressure, because يعني simply as you go above, as you go up in the atmosphere, air pressure decreases. Why? Because as you go up in the atmosphere, there is less water, less air particles. Okay? There is less oxygen, less nitrogen, less water vapor, less argon as you go up in the atmosphere. For this reason, people who climb or who go, when you go up in the mountains, for example, people who try to climb the Mount Everest, one of the major problems that they face, not the cold temperature. In addition to cold temperature, they have a problem with breathing, because as you go up in the atmosphere, there are less gas or less air. So the higher the altitude, the lower the air pressure, and the opposite is true. The lower the altitude, the higher the pressure. Okay, the higher the altitude, the lower air pressure, because there is less air pushing down on you. Look here. The higher the altitude, the lower the air pressure, and the lower the altitude, the higher the air pressure. So it is يعني inverse. This inversely proportional. When the altitude increases, air pressure decreases. When the altitude decreases, air pressure increases. Understood? طيب. Scientists measure air pressure using a device called barometer. This is barometer, and the units, they express pressure in many units. The most famous is, for example, say for example, 1,000 millimeters of mercury. This Hg means mercury. This is a liquid element. الزئبق اللي هو Hg معناها mercury. Okay. طيب. Here هون خلاص, no need to read this paragraph. Okay, no need to read this paragraph. But you have to know that when air is warm, heat energy causes particles to move more rapidly, forcing the particles around to spread out. Warm air is less dense than cold air. It is important to know this, but يعني مش شرط تجي بالامتحان, بس you have to know that it's very important to know that warm air is less dense than cold air, so it exerts less pressure. For this reason, warm air has low pressure than cold air. Okay, so, and as you know, wind or air always moves from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. So air moves from colder areas to warmer areas. Again, warm air is less dense, so it exerts less pressure. So cold air has more pressure than warm air. طيب, there are these layers of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is made up of many layers. Please, يعني I want you to read these boxes and you have to memorize them in order. يعني the first, the closest, look, the closest part of the atmosphere to the earth is the troposphere, as you see. Troposphere, it contains 80% of the atmosphere by weight. يعني most of the gas or most of the particles of air found in the troposphere, it is the closest to Earth's surface. أيوة أحمد أشرف أحمد تفضل.
Teacher, we have to know the numbers.
No. You don't numbers. You mean the elevation of each layer? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes,
So the first layer is troposphere. It is the closest to Earth's surface. Then, as you go up, this order from the closest to the Earth. The closest one is troposphere, then stratosphere. What is special about stratosphere? The ozone layer is found here. Okay?
That's
Ozone layer is found in the stratosphere. Up after the stratosphere, we have mesosphere, then the thermosphere. So the farthest layer of the atmosphere from Earth is the thermosphere. The closest one is the troposphere. Right. Do you know this girl?
Mister, can you just go to page 126?
مش فاهم عليك.
Just I want to highlight. I'm so sorry. I didn't
بدك
highlight.
ارجع لورا؟
بس شوي.
طيب بس خليني let me introduce for you my daughter تالين. تعيط زعلان. طيب اوكي. طيب وين بدك اروح سامي؟
It's so cute.
هاي البيج 226.
Yeah.
طيب. Notice that the ozone layer, sorry ابوي وين رحت انا؟ Ozone is found in the here. Look, ozone layer is found in the stratosphere. Here is the troposphere. The climate, that most of the gases or most of the atmosphere is found in the troposphere, then stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere. Okay, is it okay?
Okay.
طيب, let's go to the next page. هذول حكى عنهم layers of the atmosphere. هيهم again troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and thermosphere. طبعا the energy in the atmosphere, it comes from, most of the energy comes from the sun, as you know. Now the winds, also winds is very important. For example, I want you to know three things in the winds. What is wind? It is the movement of air parallel to Earth's surface. This is the definition of wind. Wind is the movement of air. Simply, wind means the movement of air. How does wind move? It's very important, from areas of high pressure to areas of lower pressure. I mean areas of high air pressure to areas of low air pressure. This is always the movement of air or the wind like this, from areas of high pressure to areas of lower pressure. This movement of air is called wind. يعني احنا بنقول عنها الرياح او الريح بالعربي. شو الرياح؟ هي حركة الهواء. كيف بتحرك؟ From areas of higher pressure to areas of lower pressure. And so now there are two types of winds: local winds and يلا يا دارسين شو النوع الثاني؟
Local winds and
global
global.
winds. Yes.
Global.
Global winds.
Global winds.
مش مقلوبة، global. اوكي طيب. بتحبوا المقلوبة؟
Yes, teacher.
اوكي احمد اكيد انت بتحب كل شيء ما شاء الله. طيب. اوكي. Local winds means it is the wind that blows over short distances. يعني for example, there are two examples of local winds: sea breeze and land breeze. No need to more details about land breeze and sea breeze. يعني they are very important, but not يعني الآن in the exam it's not important to know more details about them, but you have to know that they are sea breeze or sea breezes and land breezes are these two examples of what? Of local winds. Okay, so they blow over short distances. يعني sea breeze, it means that it blows from water to the land. Land breeze, it blows from land to water. Now the global winds, they blow by its name over much larger areas. They, by the way, global winds blow from the poles, North Pole to the equator. Okay, from North Pole to the equator. This is the global wind. Of course, there are many factors. By the way, the movement of a global wind are affected by Coriolis effect. okay, or the rotation of Earth on its axis. اتفضل مستر كرم.
تشرح sea breezes and land breezes.
كرم اوكي ما بشرحهم بس يعني it's not يعني بديش اضيع عليهم وقت. Just I want you to know that sea breeze and land breeze, both of them are examples of local winds. طيب, look, unequal, look, during the day, the sea breeze happens. Why? Because the air over the sea or air over the way, air that is over the water during the day, it is cooler than the air over the land. For this reason, as I told you, wind or air moves from areas of high pressure to areas of lower pressure. So above the water or above the ocean during the day, we have an area of higher pressure. And on the land, we have area of lower pressure. So wind blows during the day from the water, from the river, from the ocean, whatever, any body of water to the land. This is called sea breeze. When the land heats up faster than the water, through conduction, the land heats up and the air above it, causing the air to expand and rise. The cooler air over the water moves into the lower pressure area of the land. Yani this is how to understand the sea breeze. Simply, sea breeze, when air over the water moves into the lower air pressure over the land. Air moves from water to land. This happens during the day. It is called sea breeze. At night, the opposite or the reverse happens. Okay, the land cools faster during the night than the water. So air blows from land to the water, from the land to the water, and this is called land breeze. Okay, طيب. So خليني شوي اكتب لك اياها بسهولة عشان تفهمها. Sea breeze, it happens during the day, and it means from sea to land. It happens during the day. At night or during the night, the land breeze happens, okay, and the air blows from land to water, okay, because the air above the land is cooler than the air above the water during the day. طيب, وين صرنا احنا? Did we finish or is the yes? Lesson 1 is finished. خلينا نروح على lesson 2. خلينا نعمل sharing للesson 2. Lesson 2, is it opened or is it loaded?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, water in the atmosphere. This unit or this lesson, sorry, is very important. And always I want to remind you to remember or to focus on the concepts. Water cycle, it's a series of events that repeat, a cycle in general. A cycle is any series of events that repeat in the same pattern or order over and over again. The plant life cycle, for example, animals life cycle, and water cycle. It is series of events. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and so on. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, evaporation, and it always repeat again and again. So the water is always moving between the surface of Earth and the atmosphere. This is called water cycle. It is a continuous process, and it will, inshallah, and here, as soon as there is life on Earth, it will continue. Water cycle never stops. Africa, if water cycle stops, life on Earth will stop. طبعا, of course, it's impossible for this cycle to stop. Evaporation, the first process in the water cycle. I want to remind you that water cycle is made up of 3 main processes. evaporation. Okay, these are the main processes in the water evaporation, then condensation, and finally precipitation. But يعني most first, when liquid water changes to water vapor, this is called evaporation, and water vapor goes to the atmosphere. There are يعني some processes, water changes to water vapor mostly by evaporation. But there are another two processes important or can change water to water vapor, like respiration, which happens where? In plants or animals?
Teacher, teacher, can I say it?
Yes,
Animals.
animals. What we call the
And
process.
transpiration is
Yes, respiration. Thank you very much. What is common between these three processes? Look, evaporation. Look, evaporation, transpiration, evaporation, transpiration, and respiration.
respiration.
Okay, all of these processes, what is common between them? What
Teacher,
is common? That water, on all of them, liquid water changes to water vapor.
Vapor.
Yes, this is how are they alike in evaporation or in transpiration or in respiration.
Or in respiration.
Liquid water changes to water vapor, but evaporation happens in the bodies of water, in oceans, rivers, streams, even from land, even from the soil. Transpiration happens only in plants. Plants lose water from their leaves as water vapor. This process is called transpiration. Animals and humans, when we breathe, we lose water as water vapor. But you don't notice it. Now I am talking with you. I'm losing water vapor while I am talking. Okay? When animals or humans lose water from their bodies as water vapor, this is called respiration. Okay? So either by evaporation or transpiration or respiration, water changes to water vapor and it goes to the atmosphere. But most of water vapor, most of liquid water that changes to water vapor happens by evaporation. Yani, most of water vapor comes from evaporation. Right. Get it? So,
yes, teacher.
so
Yes.
one of these, in one phase of the water cycle, water vapor enters the atmosphere through a number of processes. Look, water vapor enters the atmosphere by many processes: evaporation, transpiration, and respiration. The first process is evaporation. And as you know, during evaporation, molecules of liquid water in oceans, lakes, and other bodies of water are heated by the sun. The energy of the sun causes the water molecules to speed up and collide more often. As the molecules collide, they escape into the surrounding area. And simply, all of these details give one meaning that liquid water changes to water vapor. Okay. Now, look here, the stream is not the only source of water for the atmosphere. Plants and animals also release, again, plants and animals also release water vapor into the air. In plants, water enters through the roots, rises into the leaves, and is released into air as water vapor. This process is called transpiration. Again, plants lose water as water vapor from their leaves. This process is called transpiration. In animals and people, animals and people release water vapor into the air every time they breathe. When you look at the camera. When I breathe, look, I am inhale. Now, When I exhale, I am losing water vapor. Okay? So whenever you breathe, you are or exhale, you release water vapor in the atmosphere. This is called respiration. تمام؟
Yes, teacher.
طيب.
Yes.
اوكي. مين هذا؟ احذروا. هذا آدم. اوكي. طيب. Condensation, the second process in water cycle. Condensation. Condensation means water vapor when it changes into liquid water. So it is the opposite of evaporation. Condensation is exactly the opposite of evaporation. Now in condensation, water vapor changes into liquid water. By this process, clouds form. These details how the clouds form. When the temperatures drop in the atmosphere or when water vapor cools, it condenses and form the clouds. Okay. When water vapor changes into liquid water, it forms the clouds. And sometimes water vapor changes directly into icy crystals, which makes snow. Okay. طيب. So clouds form when water vapor in the air condenses to form liquid water or icy crystals. Now what happens finally when حكينا على precipitation هون؟ مذكور إيش عن precipitation؟ When the clouds become too heavy, the gravity pulls the clouds down and precipitation happens. Precipitation can be rain, snow, hail, sleet, and so on. Humidity, it's very important also. It is a measure of the amount of water vapor in the air. Always humidity معناها الرطوبة بالعربي, amount of water vapor in the amount of water vapor in the air. But scientists always use another concept that is called relative humidity. It is the percent of water vapor in the air compared to the maximum amount of water vapor that the air can hold at a particular temperature. Okay, again, you have to distinguish between humidity and relative humidity. In general, humidity is the amount how much water vapor there is in the air. Scientists use a concept called relative humidity. Relative humidity is the amount or the percent of water vapor in the air compared to the maximum amount of water vapor that the air can hold at a specific temperature. Relative humidity is always written as a percentage. For example, if you read the weather forecast, you can see the relative humidity written as a percentage, 50%, 20%. When the air is dry, of course, the amount of relative humidity is very low. Yani 10% means that the air is dry. 20% the air is dry. But when the relative humidity is above 60% or above 70%, the temperature here is very high. Sometimes in some countries, the humidity can reach 100%, which means that the air is saturated. طبعا relative humidity can be measured using psychrometer, these tools that you see, and also the digital hygrometers. Okay, these are the tools that used to measure the relative humidity. Now, precipitation. This is very important also. Precipitation is any form of water that falls from clouds and reaches the air surface, which includes rain, snow, hail, sleet, and so on. When the clouds when the clouds become too heavy, the air no longer can hold them, and it falls on earth as precipitation. There are a lot of types. Also here, the types or raindrops can be divided into according to their size, starting from droplets. When the droplets grow a bit bigger, they become mist. Then they become drizzle, and also the largest of the rain is called, the largest particles of the rain are called drops. Okay, so droplets, mist, drizzle, and drops. This is, they are different from each other in size. Look, طيب. The temperature is very important in determining the type of precipitation. And for example, in very cold areas, most of precipitation becomes as snow or ice. Look, in cold regions, in colder regions, precipitation falls as snow or ice. Okay, what are the common types of precipitation? Sleet, freezing rain, snow, and hail. Okay, in addition to rain, there are other forms of precipitation: sleet, freezing rain, snow, and hail. طيب, these are the types of precipitation. هذول خلاص مش فيش داعي تقرأ الديتيلز تبعهم. ماشي؟
كيف يعني
How we measure, what is the tool that is used to measure precipitation? It is
rain gauge.
طبعا
Rain
انا اول
gauge.
شيء بتذكر I sent it for you in the group على الواتس كيف شكلها.
I remember.
ايوه
It's
طيب.
like a button.
Yeah.
Yes, meteorologists use rain gauge to measure the amount of precipitation, and they express it in centimeters, for example, or inches or millimeters. Okay, many units. يعني sometimes they use millimeters or inches or whatever.
I think it's like a cup.
Yes. Okay, it's a graduated cup, simply.
It's like a cup.
Okay, so I want you to know here in this page that there are two important things in the water cycle, that there are two forces: the force of gravity, important in the water cycle, and energy from the sun. These two things, look, in a gravity and energy from sun together drive water molecules through this never-ending cycle. So water cycle depends on two things to continue: energy from the sun and the gravity. Because the gravity, for example, without gravity, water never falls to the ground. Okay, without gravity, water will stay in the clouds, and without energy from the sun, water will not evaporate. Please, so you have to understand this point. Okay, now look here at this diagram. As you know here, respiration, transpiration, and evaporation, all of these processes, on all of this process, water changes to water vapor and go to the atmosphere. Here it condenses and forms the clouds, and finally it falls as a precipitation, as rain, snow, sleet, or hail. We finished lesson 2 and the meeting will be finished. شباب ركزوا معي. الآن بدي نرجع بعد تقريبا على 8:15. كويس؟ نكمل ماشي lesson 3. هسه راح ناخذ بريك ساعة، عشان انه انا عندي في شغلات عندي لازم اعملها. بدي اروح على صلاة المغرب كمان شوي. فعلى 8:15 exactly بنرجع نكمل lesson 3 و lesson 4. Good. بالنسبة للتوبيك، توبيك اللي قبله شو اسمه توبيك 5 ولا توبيك 5 بعينكم الله اقرأوا لحالكم، او احنا راجعناه صح؟
راجعنا.
خلص التوبيك 5 تقرأوه، بس انا راح اكمل لكم lesson 3 و lesson 4 بس ايش بعد ساعة من الان، يعني 8:15 او 8:15.
listen 5 يا استاذ.
حاضر. بس
ايش يا ليث؟ ايش سامي؟
3 و5.
انا ايش حكيت؟
3 و4.
3 و5 سوري 3 و5. طيب يلا جود باي.
Okay.
جود باي.
Bye.
جود باي.